I read something yesterday which made me think of you, because, you know, your view on schools, you think schools are pretty cruel places and they should be abolished, really, and there ought to be another way of educating children, maybe at home, not sending them to school is one of the most cruel things you can do. I read a piece, it was in one of these new books that's being talked about, which tells you how to bring up boys, particularly at the moment, and it says, why not do a deal with your son and say once a term he can have a day off where you'll lie to the teachers and say he's not very well, he's not coming in today. And that day he can do what the hell he wants. But in return for that, he has to work every other day according to the school rules, and, you know, he has to knuckle down. But one day a term, you'll give him off to do his own thing. I thought that was a brilliant idea.
It is a brilliant idea, but let me just say this to you, my friend. We all deserve that day off.
We do, don't we?
At least once a term.
Yeah.
Well, that's time you took one.
I took one yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Call Tommy Boyd now. 0171 412 1152.
Yeah, a couple of interesting mud splashes, I thought, thrown up against the mud guard of this show during the last 3 hours. Now, a lot of people will have strong views about gay couples wishing to adopt children. And a lot of people will have strong views once they've heard the strong views of people on that subject. 0171 412 1152. The lines are open now. We've also been talking this morning on the breakfast programme about the pensioners are being championed today, with some 90 Labour MPs, 1 or 2 MPs from other parties backing a campaign to have the state pension increased to £75. I've often thought that a great many pensioners tragically asked to do nothing for the rest of their lives, who would like to be as useful as possible. I'm not saying that you should have to work for your pension, but if you could top it up by becoming, for example, an active member of your neighbourhood watch, which would be great, or whether there is some kind of child minding or dog walking or shopping service, or indeed something even more substantial that pensioners were able to do to top up what is at the moment their £66, and what if today's campaign, and we talked to Age Concern about this on the show, is going to be increased to £75, top that up. 0171 412 1152. House of Lords, well, you know, they used to send in people to bayonet the wounded. The House of Lords seems to be bayoneting itself. They've tried to challenge the government's right to carry out a pledge which was in the government's manifesto. In other words, the country voted for it, but the Lords, most of them hereditary, have decided to challenge it, and this really something of a death rattle. But we do need a second chamber, don't we? Everybody else has a second chamber. It's considered to be de rigueur in a parliamentary democracy to have an elected chamber, and then to have another chamber, which in most countries is elected one way or another, that at least have powers to advise the elected body, if not the power of veto. 0171 412 1152. And triads. We've heard in the news today that it's possible that a triad group may be connected with the murder of a Chinese chef in Basildon in Essex. And we know there's a strong Chinese community in London. And we were talking the other day about Yardies as well. But what one remains mystified about the actual core business, if you like, the fundamental activity of this group, and unless you use the mafia as your starting point and assume that it's the mafia, except that it answers to Beijing or wherever, or Kingston, Jamaica, or wherever. 0171 412 1152. It's one of those smashing problems which you cannot do much about, except worry. 0171 412 1152 is the number. Let's go to Steve, who's mobile. Where are you, Steve?
Hersham again, Tom.
Hi.
Tom, I wanted to handle this with a little bit of diplomacy if I could, but I have to say that your lady that was promoting the idea that gays should be able to adopt children earlier on somewhat did annoy me. You see, I come from this particular viewpoint, and that is that all this PCism has got to stop, and it has to stop now, and it has to stop before we get overtaken by this wave of political correctness in this particular area. children are affected by their surroundings. We previously, last week, spoke about cuddles, and I joined a conversation about cuddles, and we spoke about children, how they can be affected as a man's man, or some children can be a bit effeminate, and so on and so forth. Children are affected by those that are around them. And it has to be said, purely on the weight of numbers, that being gay isn't normal. And it's scared to live in bed like that. I mean, that woman saying what she's saying.
Yeah,
it's not right, Tom.
Can you join up your...
Let this happen.
No, hang on. You've got to join up your sentences a little bit, in your mind at least, and then share them with us.
Go on.
Are you saying that young people could become homosexual because they're brought up by adoptive gay parents?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that the environment in which they will then be brought up in will not be, in inverted commas, normal.
But, okay.
And I do not believe that to be a right situation. And for somebody to actually say there is no information to support that these people would become gay, right? Just because we aren't 10 years down the road and we've made the mistake, right? And we are then turning out kids with hugely confused sexuality, right? Doesn't give a green light.
Okay. All right.
Go ahead with it.
All right. Let's go back a bit further. Let's go back a bit. Then. Okay. You don't believe that somebody's sexual preferences can be determined by their parents. Fine. What kind of worrying behaviour, or what kind of worrying emotional or mental disposition do you suppose that a person might develop as a result of being brought up by gay adopted parents?
I think that undoubtedly to move around in surroundings where it is there would be normal emotional contact between a male and a female, a partnership, a parentage described as a male and a female, and see them embracing one another, touching one another, having an odd cuddle and so on and so forth. If you was to then superimpose that into a gay relationship, and the offspring of that and how that would affect the child is something I'd be very guarded against.
Yeah, I know, but what? We know that. You've said that. We'll move slowly, but I think you're working this out as you go along. In what way?
I'm a homophobe, right?
No, but in what way?
You have to accept, right?
No, I've asked you a specific question, Steve, and I mean, I'm really interested in
Allow me to the wall, Tom, go on.
No, I'm interested in how you answer it, because you haven't. In what way?
Tom, you saw your parents having a kiss, having a cuddle, showing all the normal emotions that a male and female parentage would do so as you were growing up.
Can I just...
Now, if you were...
Steve, hang on. Steve,
I'd worry about what
Steve.
to do to the child.
Fine. Steve, air time is precious. Don't repeat yourself again. We know where you're coming from. You don't have to remind us. You're worried. We've got it. Please don't tell us again that you're worried. Okay. But we want to find out whether you've got good reason for being worried. And good reason would be some kind of clear idea in your mind of exactly what it is that you're worried about. And it seems to me, and I think this is fair comment, and have a couple of minutes to think about it, you're worried, but you're not exactly sure why. So have a think about it.
There is the converse argument, which I would turn your argument on its head. And you would agree with the woman then in that case that said that there is no evidence to show that gay relationships and children being brought up with gay parents will actually turn them gay. Now, just because there's no statistics on it, Tom, it doesn't mean to say it won't happen.
It's 9:15.
LBC now, 0171 412 1152.
Should gay couples be allowed to adopt? One of the objections which a great many people, or reservations, should I say, that a great many people will have are bound to centre around a question that is yet to be answered, which is, why are some people homosexual whilst the majority of people are heterosexual? Of all the theories put forward, the one that I find most eye-catching goes as follows. Those people who believe in reincarnation believe that it's very difficult for a soul that has spent many years as a woman on Earth and has had as many as half a dozen lives as a woman. It's very difficult for that soul to then instantly manifest a male body. And when it happens for the first time, that soul has a slightly confused identity. So according to this theory, gay people are merely old souls who are on their way to trying out the bodies of the opposite gender. So a soul may have spent 4 or 5 existences as a male and then may wish to come back to Earth and find out what it's like to be a female, but they can't do it straight away, so they inhabit a female's body, but too much of their maleness is already an integral part of them for them to become completely female. That is the theory. All I'm saying is I find it the most eye-catching of all the theories which try to explain why it is that there are gay people. Francis calls from Perivale. Francis, you're on LBC.
Oh, hello, and good morning, and how are you?
Well, I'm very well, thank you for asking.
Oh, right. I just want to point my view as regarding the upbringing and the welfare of the child put into adoption.
Yes.
I feel very strongly that this should be taken with great consideration because of the welfare of that child and how it's going to be brought up and how it's going to feel on the schooling days. I feel it is important that great consideration should be taken into folks out in society, which I'm sure there are many who want to adopt, but because of their status and financial circumstances, they are on the boundary. I think this should be taken into great consideration. Adoption is a very, very technical situation, a very technical area to be considered. Children have a right to go into loving homes. The homes that they are taken into should be based on love, first of all, and the understanding of the husband and wife. And I'm sure that there are many, if only they were given a choice and priority as regarding their circumstances, I think the law should be changed on those areas as concerned. I feel very strongly for the welfare of the child concerned, and I do feel that there are folks out in society, if only they're given a chance, can prove to be loving parents at the end of the day.
So you're in favour of gays being able to adopt?
I'm not in the judgment. I'm not taking judgment here. I find it very difficult. I think that a child normally should be brought into circumstances of the man and the woman, a husband and wife.
As a yes.
If you know what I mean.
First choice.
Yes, they should have the first choice, I would say. But I am not judging the situation. I feel that the important thing is the love and the care of the child at the end of the day.
Yes.
If you see what I mean.
Yes, and if a child can't get that love and affection.
And I think also, I feel very strongly that there should be a trial basis as a priority to test the situation and see how it confronts and see how it transforms.
Have you ever adopted?
No, I haven't. But I do support child welfare and things like that. I have.
Would you like to adopt?
I would, but I'm not in the circumstances to do so. I have two sons of my own.
Mm.
And that has not been easy because I also had to bring up children on my own at the time. Mm. But I did a very good job, and I'm thankful for that. It's just that I feel very strongly that we should take great consideration into such circumstances before actually, making decisions.
Are you saying more than is taken at the moment?
Sorry?
Are you saying more care than is taken at the moment?
I think, yes, very much so. Yes, I think money can be invested into these areas because the children of today are the next generation of tomorrow.
This is true. 0171417. Okay. Thank you very much. 01714121152. Let's get the news from Douglas Cameron. It's 9:30.
Call Tommy Boyd now. 0171 412 1152.
We go to Sarah now, who calls from Beckenham. Hello, Sarah.
Hi. Yeah, I'd just like to sort of point out something. You sound to me like a practical, realistic man. Now, this gay issue, and everybody seems to be saying, it's quite natural. It's a perfectly normal thing to be, especially in the media. I mean, every television show that you see, they introduce a gay couple, and it's becoming more and more normalised as such. Well, let's get down to the basics, shall we? Now, the anus isn't equipped to take anything inserted into it anatomically. There's a mechanism within the anus that actually rejects anything that's put into it. Whereas, the female vagina is equipped to take a penis. Now that to me suggests very strongly that it's simply an unnatural act. You cannot procreate by having anal sex. You also, if you think about it really basically, and I'm sorry to do this first thing in the morning, if you think about it, first thing, if you have anal sex, I mean, the sort of germs and the hygiene part of it, I mean, it leaves your jaw dropping, really.
Well, I don't want to tell you this.
I'm sorry?
I don't want to tell you this on air.
Yeah.
I have to tell you what I'm going to tell you off air. Is that all right?
Yeah, by all means, please do. I'm so
Can I do that?
seems to skirt the issue.
No, I just think
It really is an unnatural act.
There's two ways of doing it. I can either ask anybody who feels that they don't want to know what I'm about to say to switch off their radios for 15 seconds. Okay?
Yeah.
In which case, if you don't do that, it's your fault.
Okay.
Or else, maybe there's some technical mechanism, whereby I can briefly speak to Sarah without anybody else hearing except Sarah. Can I do that, Steve? No, I can't do that. Okay, turn your radio off then for 15 seconds if you don't want to hear what I'm about to explain, starting from now. I spoke to a doctor about this, Sarah, who said that the female vagina is just as likely a source of infection, and germs as you call it, as is the anus. Hang on a second. 14. 15. Welcome back. I mean, you didn't miss anything terrible, but if you were eating or whatever, I don't know.
Well, no, that's absolutely wrong, because the bacteria that is housed in the female vagina is quite different to that that's in the anus.
Well, it's what a woman doctor.
Fecal matter.
It's what a woman doctor told me, and if you'll find a doctor to tell you to back up your point of
Well,
view.
actually, I did work in a GUM clinic for many years.
Well, doing what?
Well, it doesn't matter what I did.
It certainly does. You might have been a cleaner.
Well, no,
which is slightly different from being the head of the operation.
Well, sadly I wasn't, but you did pick up a certain amount of information.
What did you do there?
Your career, haven't you?
What did you do there?
Well, it doesn't really matter.
It certainly does. Well, it's not going to qualify you as a medical person, sure.
Well, no, it doesn't. No, I'm just I'm telling you that the information that I've picked up throughout those years does indicate that fecal matter, bacteria from fecal matter, is quite different from that housed in the vagina.
Mm. Yes. Well, what is important is this, okay, I think. We're judging people not what they want to do in the privacy of their own bedroom.
Yeah, on an emotional issue, yes, and I go along with that.
Have you adopted?
No, I haven't.
Are you a foster parent?
No, I'm a proud married woman of 25 years.
Fine, but that doesn't take... Mrs. Yeah, but that doesn't call for any qualification or training, does it?
Yeah.
No. Now, I'm a foster father.
Yeah.
So I know what the process involves. And I'm here to tell you that nobody asked me what my wife and I do in bed.
Yeah.
When I qualified.
Yeah.
Now, do you think they should have done?
Now, can I have a couple of seconds to think about this, please?
You can have as long as you like. How long would you like, in fact?
Oh, no. No, I'll tell you.
Because I'll tell a story.
Yeah, but evolution has dictated, evolution along the years.
Hang on, you were going to answer a question. The question was again, do you think I should have been asked what my wife and I do in bed before we were allowed to foster?
I imagine there's countless perversions, and what if you'd like to call it that, and I'll put that in inverted commas.
Is that a maybe?
But no, I wouldn't be interested in what you do in bed.
No, but you make ill-informed assumptions about what gay people do in bed.
They're not ill-informed. I'm saying this is an absolute fact. And if you'd like to look into medical literature, it will tell you that the germs, the bacteria that's housed in the rectum, in the anus, is quite different to that.
How many gay couples do what it is that you're talking about, and how often do you suppose they do it?
I imagine they do it. I imagine they do it as regularly as I have sex. So.
Why do you have to imagine it?
You're asking me now, aren't you?
Because you've got a firm opinion, a strong
theorise. I can't theorise. I don't know what they get.
You've got an opinion.
I don't know what I get up to.
Yeah, let's talk about how you...
ridiculous questions yourself sometimes, Tom, with great respect to you.
I do, and I can always explain the validity of them, ridiculous as they may seem.
Yes,
but what you appear to be, unless you're careful, you appear to be somebody who has a very, very strong opinion.
Physically, I'm talking about anatomically now. Physically, I'm talking about it never reared its ugly head.
And it's all based on hearsay. And it's all based on hearsay.
Okay, fine. All right, Tom. There's no sort of... all I'm doing is actually stating the fact.
And the reason I question your opinion is because a lot of people may be saddened to hear what you have to say.
Saddened? Perhaps... well, I don't know. Perhaps
Saddened because it's ignorant, and saddened because they may think it's unfair.
I'm awfully sorry, but I reject you could say that it's ignorant.
I didn't say. I said saddened that they may think it's ignorant.
Well, what I'm saying to you is some knowledge that I do have. As simple as that.
Which is anecdotal.
It's not anecdotal.
There's nothing wrong with anecdotal evidence. Anecdotal evidence is something that you have seen with your own eyes. In a sense, anecdotal evidence is more powerful.
So everything on the news, then, that you read out on the news is anecdotal, is it?
No.
Why?
No, it's not, because often the reporter hasn't seen what took place.
Well, then it's anecdotal, isn't it? I think that's a superb prime example of anecdote.
Yes, don't get down from my throat. I'm kind of on your side here. Anecdotal evidence is what we see with our own eyes, we hear with our own ears, and it's often more valid, and it certainly should help us form our opinions to a greater extent than that which is third-hand evidence, i.e. that which is merely passed on to us by so-called experts.
Listen, let me end this by saying this. I'm not making any moral judgments on homosexuals or anything. I just think that people do tend to skirt the issue, the physical issue, that it is an unnatural act. No matter what anybody says, anal sex is an unnatural act, and it does lead to all types of...
Have you and your husband never you're married?
Yes, I am.
Oh, yes, you said you were proud to be a mother.
Yes, I am.
And a wife.
Yes.
Well done for that, by the way. Congratulations. That's fantastic. Well done. But, I mean...
Only be facetious, Tom.
No, how many children do you have?
I have 2.
So you only made love twice? And the rest of the times it was for fun?
Well, that's a pretty ridiculous question, isn't it?
Well, I know, but you must see that there's an agenda behind it. You sometimes make love for fun.
Well, of course.
Do animals?
I beg your pardon?
It's not natural to make love just for fun.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that. This is quite a bad line. Say that again about animals.
If you make love just for fun...
Yes.
Then you're actually perverting the purpose of making love.
Well, no, that's why a woman's got a clitoris, isn't it? That's why a woman has evolved a clitoris. Isn't it? It's quite different from the animal world.
Animals have clitorises?
No, they don't.
They do.
We are unique in the human kingdom to have a clitoris. A woman, a female, is quite unique.
I could talk to you. I'm going to put it like this.
That actually is there specifically for sexual arousal.
Well, we don't have to end this, but I was going to say, I can talk to you until the cows come home, but there has to be a better way of putting it.
Tom, we'll have to go off air one day.
Context of whether animals have... What's the plural, anyway, of clitoris?
Clitori.
Is it? Thank you for your call.
You're welcome.
Sarah in Beckenham. It's 10:15.
0171 412 1152. LB 1152 AM, the voice of London.
John's in Croydon. Hello, John.
Hello. I'd like to respond to the woman you've just had on. First of all, there was a sexual survey done, I think, in the Independent newspaper about 5 years ago, which found that only a fairly small minority of gay couples, I think it's only about 20%, regularly have gay sex of the type that she was talking about. There's a similar minority of heterosexual couples who also have anal sex occasionally. More importantly, the sexual activities that she was talking about has got absolutely nothing at all to do with the issue of whether or not people should be allowed to adopt. Because parents, whether they're birth parents or adoptive parents, tend not to be in the habit of having sex in front of their children and showing off what they do in bed to their children.
That's completely right.
And also I'd like to respond to her claim that gay sex is unnatural. If being gay is unnatural, perhaps the lady would like to explain how it is that gay people have existed in all human societies and all human cultures all over the world throughout the history of civilization, and how is it that homosexual activity has been observed in many animal species.
she's gone, which is a shame because she was no more interesting than you, but very interesting, wasn't she? Now, let me say this. Detractors of gay people like to say it's unnatural. And that's an argument that can never be resolved because of the definition of the word. But in scientific terms, it's not functional, is it? In biological terms.
You mean in the sense that it's not designed to make children?
In natural terms. Within nature's great scheme of things, it's difficult to see how it's functional. And most things in nature appear to have some sort of a function, or I'm not sure what the tapeworm would say.
Well, the main function of heterosexual sex, it may have the ultimate function of creating offspring occasionally, but the main function of heterosexual sex is to provide pleasure and enjoyment for both people involved, because humans existed on this planet for many, many thousands of years, merrily having sex with each other long before anybody realized, only a few thousand years ago, that it had anything, that the sexual act had anything to do with the occasional happening of a woman becoming pregnant. And
well, I'm sure. I'm sure when a bull covers a cow, it's not got a heifer in mind.
No, exactly.
It's being driven by its instinct.
Yes.
Which is pleasure.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. But I mean, does the species benefit from the animal experiencing that pleasure?
Well...
Does the line continue?
Yes, because the fact that the sexual act is pleasurable means that animals or humans...
Yeah, not to be too specific, you're talking about the end result. Fine. Yeah, but you're talking about the end result.
Well, if people have an incentive to have sex because they enjoy it, then that ensures that...
so it's human instinct to have sex.
Sorry?
It's human instinct to have sex as often as possible.
Well, not necessarily as often as possible, but fairly often.
As often as the instinct overtakes you?
Not just once or twice when you happen to choose you want to have a child.
Right. But the purpose of that instinct is the continuation of the the tribe, or the herd, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Except in the case of homosexuals.
And also except in the case of sterile couples or infertile couples.
Yeah, that's evading the question, isn't it? We can come on to that if you want to, but that's off limits slightly. Is there a purpose? Is there a value?
Yes, because of the pleasure that it gives to the people involved, even if it doesn't have any chance of creating offspring.
Yeah, but there's no extra pleasure in homosexual sex than there is in heterosexual sex?
Well, I wouldn't...
How would anybody know?
I wouldn't know personally, but I would imagine it's probably the same sort of level either way.
However, I do agree entirely with you, John, in your main point, which is that homosexuality, what people do in their own bedroom, if they're married or if they're in a partnership which is strong enough for the authorities to believe that they will make a successful job of adoption or fostering, is their own business. And if an awful lot of heterosexual couples before they were to have their own children were taken aside by an organisation and said, okay, you can have children, but what else do you do in bed? And who does what to whom, and how often, and with what? I think an awful lot of people will say, well, let's skip that then, shall we, and just have 3 holidays a year instead of none. Thanks for your call. Ben's in Earl's Court. Ben, good morning, you're on LBC.
Oh, good morning. Yes, I was interested in a thing you mentioned just a moment ago about the question about whether being gay had a function, if you like, in the natural terms, you know. I thought it is a very interesting question, I think, and my take on the whole thing is that in a way it does have a function because I suppose normally if a gay couple would not have a family and not have the distractions and the pressures of having to bring up children. And so if one looks at it in purely evolutionary terms, if you like, if you have a small proportion of society who are gay, it does allow them to devote more time to creative things like, painting and theatre and things like that. And so if one takes the kind of overall benefit to society, then it helps everybody if there are some people who do have the time to create things which are of value to everyone.
Okay. Ben in Earl's Court says that if it wasn't for homosexuality, and this indeed might be its function in the greater scheme of things, we wouldn't have such a good art world. Mary's in the East End. Mary, you're on LBC.
Oh, hello, Tommy. Hello.
Mary. Hello, Mary.
Yes, hello. I've got to turn my radio off. I've got it on. Hang a minute, Tony.
I will do. I'm relieved.
Now, I've got a different opinion
somebody rude at the door.
I believe that homosexuality is a fashion. It's a fashion that comes in and goes out, and in many cases, it is a means to an end.
Mm.
I mean, in the entertainment, in the film industry,
gotta be gay.
I mean, shall we name it, in these big establishments, it is well-known
fact
that these people, the higher-ups, the people who've got the power, are top lesbians and homosexuals.
Top lesbians?
No, lesbians in top positions in these big, associations, quote the BBC.
So the further you move up an organisation, the more likely it is that you're going
to... If you're down the bottom and you want to get on, and these people have got the influence, right, there's things that have to be done if you wish to get there. And I think, well, as I said, a means to an end. Homosexuality can be a means to an end for a certain section of the public.
Sort of
Other than that, I think it is just a fashion that comes in waves, in periods, and then it dies out.
Mary, thank you very much indeed for your wisdom. 01714121152. Tell you what, we'll find out what Steve's got in his show next. You're listening to LBC.
This is LBC 1152 AM.
Steve's joined us.
Morning.
Are you well?
I am very well.
You look well.
It's interesting hearing people's views on the church's charities lifting their ban on gay adoptions. People seem to, well, the majority of calls, I would think, seem to be against it. For some strange reason, they think that although there has been no evidence ever of somebody being adopted by a gay couple, has there?
A lot of people are against it, but they don't come out and say so. What they like to say is that they have reservations.
But why would they have reservations?
Because they're against it, but they don't want to say.
Oh, right.
They just don't like it. They don't want to... A lot of people, I believe, don't want... they prefer it if gay couples are as different from what they consider, and this is the word they always use, normal people as possible.
Right.
And allowing them to have children and walk around the supermarket with with a child would just, draw them more into the centre of society.
I think, though, that if you were a gay couple, you would want a child, as opposed to maybe a heterosexual couple who'd had one and it was kind of a mistake. And all the child abuse cases are within families, heterosexual families. There's never been a case brought to court yet of a gay couple adopting a child and then abusing it, or that child turning out gay.
That's true. Well, that wouldn't happen,
as far as I know.
That couldn't happen.
It couldn't happen.
It doesn't
never
work like that.
And as the majority of gay children or gay adults now must have come from heterosexuals.
Yes.
Unless there's something people don't know about. So I don't know why. I think it's because they always worry that it introduces people or shows them a gay lifestyle. Which is the kind of thing that they would learn about it. So we've actually spoken to some very intelligent youngsters, far more intelligent than some of the callers. I heard one caller overnight describing those people who adopt, the gay people who adopt, as freaks.
Yeah.
Which I thought was rich from a sad old, whatever this particular person thought he was.
No, all I would volunteer on it is that I always advise heterosexual couples when they're getting married not to have children.
Mm.
I just say the same thing to gay couples, really. I don't know why.
Have children?
Yes.
You really have to want a child, wouldn't you?
You have to want a child desperately, almost more so than you can explain logically.
But it's very difficult to adopt children now. There is a long procedure to go through. It's going to be equally as difficult. I think they just think they're going to hand them out to gay couples. That they'll be vetted, I would think, in exactly the same way that heterosexual couples are vetted.
Well, a lot of people have children. A lot of heterosexual people have children and babies as an accessory.
Do they?
Yes, you know what I mean.
Oh.
As an add-on thing, to complete the family.
Mm.
You're not complete family unless you've got upright fridge, freezer, and 2.4 children. So they do for that.
Well, I'm sure that we'll hear
some gay couples might think that as well.
Yes. Yeah. I'm quite sure there's a lot of gay couples wouldn't be remotely interested in adopting children, even if they were given away. We'll also talk about the two schoolgirls convicted of murdering an elderly widow. I'd have strung them up by now, I'm afraid. They actually wept when they heard they were going to be detained indefinitely. I think lethal injection would be too good for them, I'm afraid. We'll talk politics with the MPs at 11 with Edward Davey, Geraint Davis and Nicholas St Auburn. And then at 12, Jackie King is back answering your consumer questions and problems. That's the lineup. We'll take your calls just after 10. Good news. Kelly Brook apparently has been axed from The Big Breakfast. So lots of audition tapes winging their way to...
She was only an extended photo opportunity.
She was an accessory.
She was an accessory. I look forward to talking with you from 6 o'clock tomorrow on The Breakfast Show with Anne Diamond. This is LBC at 10.